All right, thank you for tuning in to Chomping at the Bit podcast. This is episode 8. This episode, I'm going to look at the week 2 slate of the NFL games. We talked about the Thursday night football game in the last episode, but now we're going to look at the rest of the schedule. Before we get to that, though, just want to touch on the Thursday night game as well. It was another well-played game. I believe in the last episode I said there were going to be no fans there, but I did not realize that Cleveland was going to allow, I think they allowed like 15,000 fans in the stadium. So, it wasn't the setting of football last year or anything, but, having a little bit of fans there did make the game seem more like normal than last week. If you didn't see it, Cleveland did pull out the win, 35-30. But I will say, for the Bengals, even though they're 0-2, they can look to a bright future with Joe Burrow. He hasn't looked all that phased as a rookie. He's made some mistakes, of course. That's just what rookies do in the NFL. But, on a team where there's not a lot of expectations, it seems like he's showing that, the moment isn't too bright for him. He's putting up points. Putting up 30 points, that's pretty good. He's made some nice throws. He's missed some guys, but I feel like it was nice to see AJ Green. He looked, I'd say 80, 85% of his old self. So if the Bengals can get, a couple more years with he and Joe Burrow, I think they can create a pretty good quarterback receiver tandem. Give it 2-3 years. If the Bengals draft well, I can see Burrow leading them back to at least playoff contention. On the other side, you look at Cleveland. Cleveland's coming in, a lot of expectations. People are expecting them to make the playoffs this year. They looked terrible last week, getting blown out by Baltimore. Like I said, they pulled out the win on this one. The offense, they showed that if they can get their running game going, then the game's easier for Baker Mayfield and Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham. Beckham had a 43-yard touchdown pass from Baker. It was a great throw, but their star of the night was Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in that running game. So if Cleveland can, keep that level up, then they should win, good number of games this year. I don't know if Baker is ready to be the focal point of that offense yet. So hopefully Stefanski continues to lean on the running game to get Baker more comfortable. So with that being said, that takes care of the Thursday night game. We can now look to the rest of week 2. And like I did last week, we're going to look at the 5 most intriguing matchups, at least according to me this week. And the first one is the Falcons versus the Cowboys. The interesting thing with this game is you have 2 0-1 teams. You have 2 teams coming with different expectations. The Falcons are trying to, slowly build back up to where they were in their Super Bowl year. When they had that big loss to the Patriots in the Super Bowl. And it seems like since then they've been kind of around average to mediocre. not saying they were, been like a 2-3 win team, but they're a team that's been 8-8, 7-9, 6-10 area, and that's kind of the spot where you don't want to be, because there you can kind of get stuck being a middle of the road team. Cowboys, we all know, every year it's the same thing. Great offensive weapons, defense that's supposed to be improving. So it's always the thought from a lot of people, is this the year where the Cowboys make a run of the Super Bowl? They lost to the Rams last week, but you got to be thinking that the Cowboys are looking at what the Seahawks did to that Falcons defense, and they may be expecting a big day. And let's see. And that's actually going to be one of my picks for week 2, so I won't give you a prediction on that game yet. The second game I'm looking at, Packers and Lions. All off season, there was all this talk about Aaron Rodgers not having any weapons. How could they draft a quarterback? Are they trying to push Aaron Rodgers out? When are they going to give him any help? He threw 4 touchdowns last week. So you must have some weapons. So, they're going up against the Lions this week. Will Aaron Rodgers put up another big passing game? And can the Lions bounce back from last week against the Bears, where they had a lead going into the second half, squandered it, had the ball in their hands late in the fourth with a chance to, regain the lead and win the game? Stafford threw a pass to DeAndre Swift. He dropped it in the end zone. Ultimately, they lost by 4. So, if the Lions don't want to fall too far behind in the division. Yes, it's only be week 2, but if the Packers win, they'd be 2-0 with both wins coming in the division already. Lions starting off 0-2. There's already been questions about Matt Patricia, their coach. So if you're 0-2, those questions just get a little bit louder. The third game I'm looking at are the Vikings versus the Colts. As I just said, the Vikings lost to the Packers last week. And then the Colts, probably the shocker of week 1, they lost to Jacksonville. Now, these are 2 teams that have playoff aspirations. So neither team, of course, wants to start 0-2. Can Phillip Rivers get that Colts offense to look like what a lot of people thought they would look like when he signed there in the offseason? And can the Vikings bounce back from that rough showing against Green Bay, where their defense was pretty much non-existent? And can they get, Dalvin Cook going? And really, last week, Cook had a rushing touchdown, but when they had their success last year, Dalvin Cook was the centerpiece of their offense, and they kind of did a lot of play-action pass off of him. Yes, they lost Stephon Diggs, but they still have Adam Thielen. They have Kyle Rudolph. So that could be a very interesting game. Fourth game I'm intrigued by is the Washington football team versus the Cardinals. 2 teams that are 1-0. Both of them surprising wins last week. Washington came out, their defense looking much better than people thought, and beating a Eagles team that is a little beat up, but it was still a good win for them. I'm not going to take that away from them at all. The Cardinals beat the Niners last week, and the Cardinals are a team they seem like they're up and coming. I like Kyler Murray, their young quarterback. He's definitely more comfortable this year, at least through week 1. We'll see if that Washington defensive line can get after him, make him uncomfortable, force him to make some mistakes and give their offenses short fields, because Haskins, the Washington quarterback, is still trying to find himself. He didn't throw for a lot of yards last week, but hey, a win's a win. You take it how you get it. The fifth game I'm looking forward to are my Patriots traveling up to Seattle to face the Seahawks. And that Super Bowl that they had was years ago, but when the two of them play, those memories are going to be brought up. So I'm sure you'll see the Malcolm Butler interception at the goal line a couple of times during that game. That's the Sunday night game, so it'll be interesting. I don't know if any of you, I doubt any of you heard Bill Belichick. If you didn't, he went on a nice little, like, couple minutes, like 3-4 minute talking up of Russell Wilson, saying that he's underrated, which I do agree with him. You don't hear Russell Wilson's name a lot when they talk about best quarterbacks in the game today. He's the guy that you might not be able to name a lot of his receiving targets or running back. People knew Marshawn Lynch. He's not there now, but yeah, and seems like every year at the end of the season, you look up, the Seahawks have 10, 11, 12 wins in the playoffs. But he and Pete Carroll are a great match. They both bring a lot of energy to that team. They're both leaders on that team, of course. Carroll's the coach, so he will definitely have to be one of the leaders. But yeah, Wilson's a guy that those guys play hard for. That's a sign of a great quarterback, a great leader. He's got a great arm. He can scramble. So it's gonna be an interesting look at, I guess, two strengths, because the Seahawks have a pretty good pass attack, which they put on display against the Falcons. Patriots have arguably the best secondary in the NFL, led by Stephon Gilmore, the current Defensive Player of the Year. So it's gonna be a good one. I think a lot of people are looking at the Seahawks to win the game, but the most intriguing thing to me is going to be, how does the Patriots offense look? Because I'm not expecting them to run the same offense that they ran against the Dolphins, against the Seahawks. I would not be surprised if you saw Cam Newton throw more than 19 passes, which I think would be a good showing to see, how he and N'Keal Harry and Julian Edelman, how well they've gotten on the same page. Not to say they're going to get away from the running game, because that's clearly their strength, at least through 1 week. So I doubt they're going to completely abandon it, but I don't think they're going to rely on it as much. So there you go. Those are the 5 games I am most interesting to see this weekend. And by the time this episode comes out, should be a little bit before kickoff. So yeah, I'll definitely sit in front of the TV like I did last week, channel surfing. So with those 5 games, I also wanted to look at some of the teams who lost last week and kind of pick out the team that I think has the most to show this weekend, which I think are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Once they got Brady and Gronk, there's been a lot of talk of them being a Super Bowl favorite. They lost last week to the Saints, which is no big deal because the Saints are another team that's supposed to be a Super Bowl contender. But it was a little bit of the drama that happened after that game that's kind of put them on my radar to see how they look week 2. They're going up against Carolina. Carolina's in transition. They have a new coach, Matt Rule. They have a new quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater. They still have Christian McCaffrey. So that's going to be Tampa Bay's focus, to stop him, force Bridgewater to beat them with his arm. But, there's been a lot of talk about Bruce Arians' press conference after the game where he put the onus of the 2 interceptions for Tom Brady on Brady, basically saying that he made the wrong reads and threw them to the wrong receiver. And we all know that they spoke a lot about the reason why Brady left New England was that Brady didn't feel appreciated or whatever by Bill Belichick. Which, if that is the case, I don't know what the truth is behind that. That could very well be what happened, but if that is the case, Brady can at least, recognize that Belichick never did that to him in the media and just straight threw him under the bus like that. So when he first got to Tampa Bay, Brady said, he's down there with Arians and he's having fun. So let's just see if maybe, week 1 was a misunderstanding between the two. And, Arians might have just misspoke. Because later, I think it was like a couple of days ago, he had another press conference. He did walk back some of those comments that he made. So it seems like the two of them should be fine. But you never know. If they were to somehow lose to Carolina, that's going to start, bringing some more eyes to Tampa Bay, wondering what's going on down there. Even though I think they should be fine. I'm expecting them to beat Carolina this week, but let's definitely see that. And I guess a little side note to that is Rob Gronkowski still going to be a basically blocking tight end who catches like little tight end screens, or will he become a bigger part of the offense this week? He'll have an opportunity as Chris Godwin is out this week as he's in concussion protocol. So those are some targets that's got to go to somebody. And maybe Gronkowski can step in, take those targets. All right, and then, of course, it's the segment that I guess all been waiting for. My picks, of course. Let's see. Last week I went 2-3. I know, wasn't a great week for me, but this week I'm expecting some winners. So my first pick was the Cleveland. I did pick the Cleveland Cincinnati game. I mentioned that in the last episode. And that one, as I said, it was 35-30. Cleveland beating Cincinnati. Cleveland was a 5.5 point favorite. So that was a loss. Yeah. Not the best start to week 2, but hey, it's all right. I have 5 more games for this week. Let's try to go 5-0. First pick, outside of that one, so basically the second game of the week I'm picking, we have Dallas as a 5.5 point favorite going up against the Atlanta Falcons. I'm actually going to take the Falcons in this one. I don't know. It's whether me not thinking that much of the Cowboys or me just expecting, I guess I'm expecting Atlanta to, somewhat put up similar numbers to last week. And I don't think the Cowboys are going to do what Seattle did. So I guess you put those two together. I'm expecting Atlanta to cover the 5.5. Not saying they'll necessarily win the game, but I can see it being a field goal game either way. So give me Atlanta in that one. Next game, we have the Colts, 2.5 point favorite, going up against the Vikings. I'm taking the Vikings in that one. So far I'm going to take 2 underdogs. I just think, I feel like I can trust Minnesota's running game over Indianapolis and Phillip Rivers bouncing back. Like, if you ask me, I think Phillip Rivers is pretty much done, but I'm willing to give him another week to show me something. Let's see. Next game, as I mentioned, Tampa Bay being my team with the most to show. So they are an 8.5 point favorite going up against Carolina. Give me the favorite in that one. I'm expecting Tom Brady to come out, play like MVP Brady, spread the ball around. Would not be surprised if Mike Evans got into the end zone this week. And Gronk, I think he had 2 catches last week. I'd say he might get 5 this week. He'll look a little bit better. I think it's still going to take Gronk a few weeks to get somewhat back into looking like how he did in New England. But either way, I think to beat that Carolina team, yeah, they have enough to at least win by 10. So give me Tampa Bay as the favorite in that game. All right, the next game, we have the Seahawks as a 4.5 point favorite going up against New England. Maybe this is the homer pick in me, but give me New England in that game as the underdog. I'm tempted to say New England goes up to Seattle, not only covers the spread, but outright beats Seattle. I think I'm going to say that. Yeah. I think New England outright wins that game. So, give me the underdog. So that's 3 underdogs out of the 4 picks already. Last game I got it this week. Las Vegas as a 5.5 point underdog going up against the Saints. Yeah, I'll take the Saints in that one. That seems pretty easy to me. I mean, you have Drew Brees. Now, the Saints will be without Michael Thomas. That is a blow, but yeah, I think there's enough weapons without Michael Thomas that they should be able to take care of the Raiders. That's the Monday night game, so it's going to be the first game at the Raiders Stadium. So that's going to be interesting to see what the stadium looks like. I mean, it's in Vegas, so you know it's got to be done right. So, but yeah, give me the Saints in that one. So I guess to recap my picks, I have Atlanta over Dallas, the Vikings over the Colts, Bucks over the Panthers, Patriots over the Seahawks, Saints over the Raiders. So that's going to be, so I did 6 picks this week. I already lost the first one. Went 2-3 last week. Hopefully by the end of this week, I can at least break even and be at 500. That way I can go into the rest of the year, look to improve every week. Like I said, I'm still shooting for 60%. Have not gone away from that. So, yes, that's my preview for the rest of the week too. And just to let you know, it's coming up in, I guess, the next couple of episodes. I mean, from all my NBA fans out there, trust me, I have not forgotten about the NBA. I have been watching the conference finals. So definitely I think the next episode I will get back into what's going on with the conference finals. You know, got to see how my Celtics are doing. They did win Game 3, thankfully, as they were down 0-2. So it was a must-win game. They got that one, but I'll, definitely do a deep dive into that series as they are now off until Wednesday night. So I have a couple of days to touch on that. Nuggets Lakers just got started. Lakers won Game 1, but they do have 2 games. They'll play games 2 and 3 before Celtics Heat play Game 4, which makes sense. They did the break for the Celtics and Heat so they could catch the Nuggets and Lakers up. That way they don't have a team. Let's say the Celtics or Heat were able to finish their series in like 6 or whatever. They don't want them to be 2-3 games ahead of the Western Conference, because then that just gives them extra rest, and then they might get rusty. And since the next round is the NBA Finals, the NBA wants to make sure that both teams are at their best. So, yeah, we'll look into both series in the next episode, or definitely by the episode after. And of course, we'll have to keep up with how my picks went, because I will keep up with that all year. Yeah, so that's what you got to look forward to. So with that, I guess that's a good place to stop on this episode. So thank you for tuning in. As I always say, if this is your first time tuning in, definitely give the show a like, follow, subscribe, depending on where you're listening to this. I mean, it's on Spreaker, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I mean, if you can name it, it's probably on there somewhere. We're on Twitter, just to mention that again. So if you go to Twitter at Chompin Podcast, you can send a tweet to me and we can discuss some sports topics there. You can give me some topics you want me to talk about on the show, or you can give me your opinion on there of topics I already talked about, and we can talk about stuff there. As sports are going on, I do tweet some stuff out, so definitely give that a follow. But yeah, thanks for tuning in again. I appreciate it. Appreciate you listening. If you liked it, let me know. If there's something about the show you didn't like, you can also let me know that, because I'm trying to, I want to, give you the best show for you. That's what I'm doing this for. And definitely, let your people know about the show to try to build the audience. I would definitely appreciate it. So thanks again. Be safe. I'll definitely catch you next episode. All right.